What is up, guys? This is Casey with Lions Den Investments and Reviews. Hope you guys are having a good night. Wanted to cover the markets here in blockchain real quick and cryptos. Bitcoin right now, guys, is about to hit an all-time high. Right now, we're standing at $64,232, and the all-time high is, well, we had a wick out there at about 64,947 for an all-time high in Bitcoin. So we are almost there. Like we got up to about $400 off of that mark, um, and getting ready to break 65,000 on Bitcoin. But we're not quite there yet. We do have that resistance level right there, and as you can see on Bitcoin right now, it's if we can't get some volume coming in here above this resistance line, my guess is that we would come back down in price. And just to give you an idea of where we could retrace to, because actually getting a pullback right now would not be that bad. It would actually be pretty healthy for Bitcoin and the overall market, because you'd be able to take a little bit of a breather, find a new higher low, and then off we go with the rest of this leg three on the five-wave Elliott. But if we look at, let's just zoom out here real quick. If you look at the RSI right now, we are approaching overbought territory. So anything above that 80 mark right there on the RSI, anything above this right here, this 80.13, is going to be over bot territory. And that normally indicates that you got buyers that are exhausting themselves, and you're going to have sellers that start stepping in and liquidating and taking profits at these new higher prices. So that would be my guess as to kind of what you might see play out on Bitcoin over the next few days. Maybe we get a little bit of a retrace. If not, hey, that's fine too. Let's just go ahead and break those all-time new highs and keep going. But with that being said, here's how I'm getting my retracement just for shorter time frames on Bitcoin. We just take that fib retracement tool, okay? And you can get there by just clicking on fib retracement off of the TradingView platform. And then you're going to draw from the bottom to the top here, and that'll give you some levels to look at. Guys, I've been talking about the 0.382 and the 618 levels as being major reaction areas for, price demand, people coming in, buying or selling. And the 618 and the 382 are major levels to look at, when you're getting retracements. Normally your buying areas are going to be around like the 618 to the 786, okay? But I honestly don't think we're going to come down that low. I think we might, we'll have to see what happens, but if we do come down in price, I would expect some support around $57,907, because you can see we had an area right in here where we had, strong demand in buyers and sellers. That would be my first level of support if we do retrace. So right there around $57,907. And then if we fall lower, I'd be looking at that 382 right around $55,140. We hit there and then we bounce back up. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on Bitcoin right now. I want to get into some of the articles though, because they were talking about today was a big day, of course, for Bitcoin with the exchange traded fund, which debuted on Wall Street. Okay, now there was a couple that were supposed to come out alongside this one, and they ended up putting a halt on it. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I'd have to go back and look. But this one here is the Proshares Bitcoin Strategy ETF that launched on the New York Stock Exchange on Tuesday after the opening bell. And, the debut was big news for the crypto market as a whole moving forward. But what I want to tell you real quick is this ETF, okay, it's not buying direct into the underlying asset Bitcoin, okay? So traditional investors are going to have exposure to the crypto market now. So you might see like 401k investors, regular day traders, hedge funds, people like that, right? Wall Street getting involved in these ETFs. But this is basically a way for them to track futures markets on cryptos. Okay, and what they're going in here and talking about in this article is, the first equity ETF in 1993, the first fixed income ETF in 2002, and the first gold ETF in 2004. And they're comparing it to those similar ETFs when it comes to like, the first equity ETF, the first gold ETF that came out, because what they're saying here is that the Proshares Bitcoin ETF holds futures contracts that track the price of Bitcoin rather than purchasing the digital coins outright. So you're not buying direct into Bitcoin or that underlying asset. Gary Gensler, chair of the SEC, has said the commission will be more comfortable with this type of structure because futures trade on a regulated market. Spot trading in cryptocurrencies takes place on a broad variety of largely unregulated exchanges. Okay, so the next step would be getting an ETF out there where you can invest in crypto, and it's going to track the the spot price, what it's trading on within cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, you get something like that, guys, you're going to get a massive spike in Bitcoin. Right now, you're not really seeing these massive spikes off the ETF because it's not buying directly into cryptos, okay? It's an indirect way for people to get exposure to it through the futures contracts. Although U.S. investors can already buy Bitcoin through private trusts, such as the $39 billion Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, or directly through crypto exchanges, this guy Sapir, who they interviewed, said ETFs would open up the market to a wider variety of investors, including those using 401k pension funds, individual retirement accounts, and brokerage accounts. Okay, so it is good news. It's very bullish for Bitcoin, short term, and I would say even long term, going into the next well cycle. Okay, because it opens up the doors for these large institutions, and now a bunch of the masses, right? The people who don't know how to go in and buy cryptos direct now have a way to get exposure to it. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here and how high we go in price through the rest of this bull run. Because what have I been saying all along? They needed a way for the elites, the higher ups, the big institutions and the big banks. They were going to need a way to liquidate their bags and take profits and get a mass influx of buyers coming in, even if you don't get, say, so much of the retailers FOMOing in like you did in the last bull run. That's a possibility because a lot of people lost their rear ends buying in at the top on the last well cycle in cryptos, and they lost everything because they held on to it just hoping that it would go up higher, and it never did, and they ended up getting like an 85% correction in Bitcoin, which bottomed us out there in 2017. And a lot of people got waxed. They got wrecked. And so those people never let go of that emotional feeling that they got when they lost all that money. And it's been probably, I would say, fairly hard for those people that lost all that money to get back in and do it again, come the next well cycle. So I'm kind of speculating here that might be part of the reason why you may not see a whole lot of FOMO from the retail side versus institutions. But then again, people like myself who kind of sold out too early. I didn't necessarily get wrecked, but I sold out way too early in the last well cycle and got left behind. But I watched the whole thing play out, and I learned from it and was like, hey, let's go back in this next time and do it again. So you're going to get guys like me that are coming in now too, who know, that there's FOMO and this well cycle could really go parabolic. So you're still going to get a lot of retail investors coming in. I just don't know how many, and I don't know how much FOMO we're going to see going into this last leg up. My guess is it's going to be quite a bit. And a lot of it's probably going to come from the biggest institutions and the money inflowing through these new ETFs. Okay. So then they go on here in this next article. They're saying, here's why analysts are saying no FOMO ahead of Bitcoin's ETF launch. And this article was on October 18th, so it was yesterday. But they're saying the upcoming launch of the Bitcoin ETF has bulls proclaiming that $100,000 Bitcoin price is imminent, But several analysts warn that a sharp term, a sharp short-term pullback could also occur. And I was just saying I'm expecting somewhat of a pullback here because it would be healthy. So, it's kind of going along with what this guy's saying too. So don't be alarmed if you do see Bitcoin start pulling back a little bit because we're nowhere near over yet. The day crypto traders have long waited is almost here. At the opening bell on October 19th, Proshares futures-based Bitcoin exchange-traded fund is scheduled to launch, and analysts are predicting that additional ETFs will roll out over the coming weeks. Okay, we've already covered those, so yes, I'm expecting more to come there too. Grayscale, for instance, is talking about launching their own ETF here soon. I believe they're wanting to see if they can't get an ETF that tracks the spot price of the underlying assets. I don't know how far that's going to go though, because Gary Gensler again was already out there saying that he thinks that's too high risk right now. And quite frankly, I don't, just my own personal opinion here, I don't think that's any riskier than investing in, an ETF that they just created, which doesn't track the actual underlying asset. So people getting into this don't even own Bitcoin. To me, that's risky, right? So I just kind of take what he says with a grain of salt, but we'll see what happens with that. Data from Cointelegraph, Markets Pro, and TradingView shows that an early morning attempt by bears to drop the price back below 60,000 was well defended by traders. And at the time of writing, there's a tug of war at the prices of 61,000 to 62,000 zone there. Obviously, we smashed above that. Talking about a higher low would be a normal price action. Again, kind of like what I was just saying. We need a retrace here. You can see this guy's chart. He says, I don't like the ETF. God, this guy can't even type. He said, I don't like the ETF. Has been approved. He's talking about the vibe there. He said, don't be surprised with a higher low. It'll change nothing. And that is the beautiful thing about it. So he's basically painting a pretty picture for you here on the chart. And it looks real similar to what I just showed you, where you had that resistance up here. So if we go back to the chart, he's got this resistance line up here on Bitcoin. So that very, very top line right there. And so what he's got going here is a what they call an ascending triangle. So we're bouncing back and forth on this ascending triangle. And I could draw that out for you on the charts here, but I'm not really doing that. I'm doing horizontal support and resistance lines, and that's kind of how I'm basing the price movement. So mine's a little bit more accurate as far as where the price could go, where it could bounce as far as support. Whereas he's just got the price moves going back and forth, hitting this weekly support line and then the ultimate all-time high resistance line. But needless to say, he's basically saying the same thing that I am. Okay, that expect a pullback. It would be healthy. We come back down, and I already gave you my support lines and where I see the price going. So that's that. Now, if we go over here again and finish up, he says, FOMO buyers beware. A deeper analysis of what could possibly come next was provided by David Lifchitz, managing partner and chief investment officer of XO Alpha. Lifchitz suggested that a small pullback might be in order, especially after the torrid run from 40,000 just 2 weeks ago to where we are now, which translated into a Bitcoin increase of 50%. While Lifchitz suggested that the medium-term look definitely looks higher, the analyst offered a word of caution for potential buyers, saying these Bitcoin ETFs based on CME futures to track Bitcoin price, they're going to underperform Bitcoin's spot price due to ongoing future roll costs. I'm not going to get into that and what that means, but that's his reasoning for the fact that these ETFs he's suggesting there's no FOMO ahead just based on the ETFs. And then he goes on here and he says, so these ETFs will likely be an easy Bitcoin access to unsophisticated retail investors with their broker accounts who will not get the full return of Bitcoin after all fees are accounted for. These ETFs will also bring arbitrage opportunities for smart traders, and that's Wall Street at its best, guys. So he's painting the same picture I painted for you before this ever hit the news. When it comes to the fact that they're enticing people in now, and they're getting them to buy so that they can offload their bags, right? But they're doing it through a futures contract here, so I don't know how that technically is going to make them more money just by holding the physical asset. When it comes to like these big banks, because they actually own Bitcoin and they're dropping that on an exchange or an open market. They're selling that. They're not selling the futures contracts. But then again, being that they're the powers that be, they control both sides of that, so they're going to make money either way. And then here's Grayscale. Okay, this is the last article I have. They confirmed Bitcoin ETF plans, and they also added exposure to Zcash, Stellar Lumens, and Horizon to the Grayscale Trust. And I believe, guys, if you are investing in Theta, Theta is also part of that as well. So that's the news for today, and covering just the last couple days. There's a lot going on, but just know that the news here is very, very bullish. And even if we do get a slight pullback on Bitcoin, we're heading to the moon. And just to show you something real quick, the other day I was talking about target prices on Bitcoin and how I get those. So if you go over here and we did the trend-based Fibonacci, and we go from the bottom of this move over here, like we'll just go straight from we'll start right here where we took off, okay? So you take that and you go up to the high, and then you come down right here where we settled, okay? When you look at Elliott waves and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulse that you get on well cycles, you're going to see that on leg 3, okay, because this was leg 1 right here, and then down was leg 2, and now we're starting leg 3, okay? So essentially, you get something that looks like this, if I can find it here. So we go from here up, and that's 1, down is 2, and then we're starting leg 3 right now, okay, which is going to take us probably your leg 3 on an Elliott wave is always going to have to be higher than leg 1, okay, and leg 4 cannot come back down here to where we were at the top of leg 1, okay? It just, by Elliott wave rules and theory, that should never happen. Otherwise, it's not going to count for a leg 3. But if you look at any of the other well cycles that we've had on Bitcoin, leg 3 has always cleared at least the 1.618. From other previous well cycles in Bitcoin, leg 3 has always came up here to like the 3.618 and the 4.23. Just all you have to do is go back and look at it. I don't want to bore you with all the chart analysis on that, so I'm not gonna do that in this video. But leg 3 should take us to at least the 1.618, which would give you a price here of about $116,261. Now, in my last video, I was saying short term, the price should hit probably at least the 786 right there at about $71,870 roughly. We may even get up to about 77,000, and that'd be shorter term. That wouldn't be for like leg 3, and that's leg 3 is over. I don't think that's what you're going to get, because that wouldn't really be a leg 3. Because if you retrace from that, like if you were to retrace from leg 3 and come back down here, well, you'd be right back down here where leg 1 was. Okay? So that wouldn't count for a leg 3. We're going to have to go to at least the 1.618 or a little bit higher, in my opinion, just based on Elliott wave theory. So that's what I'm looking at as far as leg 3 up, and then of course you're gonna get a pullback. Okay, so if we go back up here and do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's leg 1, 2, 3 takes us to like the 1618 or a little past that, right? Then you're going to get a little bit of a drawback, but leg 4, it's not going to come back down here to the top of this leg 1. So it's going to settle above it, and that would put you somewhere around like 82,700, maybe even down here at about 78,000. Okay, and then you go off for leg 5, and that would complete your Bitcoin will cycle going parabolic. And it's going to have to go parabolic because really there's not a whole lot of time left to finish out this well cycle. My time frames, honestly, I'm looking for, historically, Bitcoin has peaked out the first week of December, and then altcoins will usually peak out anywhere between like 2 and 3 weeks afterwards when you're basing it on previous well cycles. They did exactly that back in 2017, and I would expect nothing less here. So with that being said, if you're holding Bitcoin, if I was holding Bitcoin, I'm not holding Bitcoin, but if I did, I'd be selling my Bitcoin sometime around like the first week and a half of December. And then my altcoins that I hold right now, I won't be completely liquidating those until the end of December, possibly even maybe the 1st of January. We'll just have to see how high we go because nobody can really predict these markets and predict the blow off top 100%. Anybody ever tells you they can, they're full of shit. Just don't listen to them, okay? But I can tell you, those are my time frames that I'm looking at. And along the way, I've got targets set. So if any of my assets hit those targets, I might peel back a little bit off the top, of my bags, liquidate maybe like 20% at a certain price. And if we hit another one at a higher level, I'll do the same thing again. And I'll just continually do that all the way up until we get to the very, very top. And by the time we get to the very, very top using that strategy, I should be left with at least like 50 to 60% of my bags left where I can go ahead and dump the rest, and I catch the closest that I can come to that blow off top. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as my strategy. But with that said, guys, that's really all I have for today. Hope you're liking the content. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, because we're covering technical analysis. We're covering the fundamentals, and just finishing up here with this bull run and seeing how high we really go, because I'm going to keep you up to date on that and what I'm doing. So if you want to follow along and just listen to my insight and what I'm seeing in the markets and what I'm doing, feel free to. And, it's not financial advice. I don't recommend anybody to follow me and do exactly what I'm doing because, again, everybody's situation is different. But it can definitely help you make better educated decisions from somebody who has, in fact, been through a well cycle before and experienced this back in 2017. So for anybody new who hasn't been through that yet or hasn't experienced that, you're probably not going to have the first clue as to like what the hell's going on here. And if you can have somebody that you can follow and tune into who's been through it, it most certainly helps. And it doesn't have to be me. I'm just saying that I've been through it. I understand how it works. I understand well cycles. Now that I've been taught from others who are far better at it than me, who've been in 3 or 4 well cycles prior to what I experienced in cryptos. So what I'm saying is there's plenty of people out there that are far smarter than me that have made far more money than I have in well cycles, who I've learned from. And if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, feel free to go follow one of these guys, right? I mean, there's all sorts of them out there, but what I'm telling you is I've been through this, and you don't have to worry about me feeding you a line of shit here because, like I said, I can't predict everything 100% here, okay? Well, what I can do is just keep continuing to shoot these videos for you and tracking the price movements and see how high we go, because I do have targets for everything. And I've got a plan in place, so you want to follow that plan, okay? But with that said, guys, that's all I've got. If you guys hear any negative news coming out, more FUD, don't pay attention to it. And as usual, fear nothing, my friends.